to my studio. This video is a really important topic for me. Today I really want to talk about the importance of independence and autonomy as an artist in the arts. And I want to preface this video by saying when I speak about the arts or the art world, because there are many different art worlds, I want to specify that I'm particularly talking about the contemporary art world. But like I said, I know that there's many different art worlds out there, and I believe what I'm gonna say in this video can be applicable to all of those different other avenues. What do I mean when I say independence as an artist? Or I guess I should say, how does that look to me, autonomy and independence as an artist? I think for me, that looks like being able to build and sustain a career for yourself outside of an institution or gallery or agency doing it for you. And when I say sustain, I don't mean it has to be fully financially sustainable to be independent as an artist. Independence can come in many different forms. Financial is just one, but I also mean to be able to build your own collector base, to be able to build your own community outside of the need for, again, sorry for the horn, but outside of the need for an institution or a gallery. I've been working as an independent artist for my entire career. I've been fortunate enough to work with and collaborate with a few institutions and galleries and independent creators. I think one of the biggest things I realized in my career thus far is how important it is to be able to maintain or independently curate your career. For me, in my opinion, you never want to put your career in the hands of someone else. I don't believe anybody else can make or break your career as an artist but you. I thought about writing out a PowerPoint, which I did hit like a small little PowerPoint of just like bullet notes that I wanted to talk about in this video. But I'm also kind of just going off the head too. And when I want to say, when I say independence, that isn't me saying to turn your back on working with galleries or institutions, because like I said, I've done that and I continue to do that. However, I think there needs to be a strong level of independence where you don't have that power dynamic of feeling like you need a gallery to make something of yourself as an artist, or feeling like at the mercy of if your gallery drops you or closes. I mean, in the last year, there has been several gallery closures. And so it's something that nobody can ever truly prepare for. And you don't ever want to be left at the negative receiving end of something like that. That's a very big, important lesson I had learned in my career. No matter who gives the thumbs up to my work, I'll always be the advocate first and foremost. I'll always be the one championing myself and showing up for myself and my work. It's the most important thing because many times nobody's going to support you before you support yourself. In my opinion, you have to open the door for yourself, because most of the time people won't open that door for you. But regardless of anything, you have to believe in your work first and foremost, and you have to create that opportunity, and opportunities won't come until you take that leap. And that's what I think creating a independent ecosystem for your career, for your art to thrive, to grow, to build community. Well, I think that's so important to learn how to do outside of an institution or outside of needing the help of a gallery. I want to talk about a few examples of artists that I personally looked at and I still look at as I've developed my career independently. Off the top of my head, I think of KAWS. KAWS started out graffitiing. You know, he created his first vinyl figurine collections and put them in consignment shops in Japan. He was the first person to promote himself and champion his work. He's a great example of somebody who's been able to cross into different fields and different avenues for art, such as fashion and merchandising and fine art, and create this very cohesive ecosystem for his work. There's also Shepard Fairey. Shepard Fairey with Obey, you know, he started out self-funding art projects, graffitiing, plastering up his work. You know, I knew of Shepard Fairey's brand Obey before I knew of him as an artist. You know, so he's a great example that there's many different ways to open that door, to get through the door. And that's all you need a lot of times. It's just like that one crack in the armor where you can breach in and all of your work can be seen. There are plenty of other great artists like Hebrew Brantley. Hebrew Brantley started out in Chicago. He was working as an art teacher to make ends meet, you know, but in this time he's still doing like small projects here and there, finally getting the opportunity to show his work. This gallery at these artist studios in Chicago, that opened the door for him, you know, and now Hebrew Brantley, his figurines are everywhere. You can see his art being collected by many notable figures and celebrities. Each of these artists are examples that there's no one way, there's no one right way to enter. There's no one right way to go about this. And I think it's important to look at artists like that too, because a lot of times in art, people don't think that, or should I say a lot of times in the creative field, people don't think that there's a roadmap that you can follow, but there is. And because there's so many ways of going about this, I know, and we all have different goals in mind, but I think it's important to have a strong visualization of what you want your career to look like, and to be able to, you know, loosely follow artists that you admire whose careers look in the trajectory that you want to go. And what did they do? Did they all get a MFA? Have they done residencies? Or did they enter outside of the contemporary art world? Did they come up in the institutional sense? I think it's a lot of times we don't realize that just like a medical field where you go to your undergrad for 4 years, go to your grad school, PhD program, different things like that, there is a similar way you can look at the arts and the seasoned artists around you to help follow a roadmap to get you at least into that stratosphere of what you're looking for. There are even musical artists that I look at as inspiration to how they go about doing independent business. Larry June.
Because, you know, it's going to be times where you're doing a lot of shit for free. I did this shit for free 16 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I ain't make shit off of it. I was going off of straight passion and just the love of making music. But
Right.
what I found out was just being consistent and focusing on the craft and just building your group of people up. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I say group of people, because I look at everybody as the same, like, you know, your fan base,
Right.
and shit like that, and just continue to build that up, and the money just come with it.
I love Larry June's music, but not only, and I love what he speaks about in his music, but not only that, I love how he has cultivated this independent career for himself and has expanded his career into other formats. You know, he has his music, he has his touring, but he also has his clothing brand, and now he's able to collab with other big name brands.
Was Larry June making his fortune from shows, merch, streaming? Like, what's the foundation of your empire?
It's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't say the majority of it is touring. You know, mine really comes off of, you know, owning my catalog of music,
Right.
and, my clothes brand, selling merchandise, and just really, you know, knowing my price,
Yeah.
and standing on my price. You know what I mean? Like, we only worth what we say we worth.
You know, so it's like opening up these avenues for your creativity to pivot and go into these new lanes. I just touched on 2 points that I want to talk about more. pivoting and longevity. I think that a lot of times we get to feeling like if we pivot from our original plan, it means we failed at something. Whoever is watching this, I want you to wipe that from your mind. Pivoting is not failure. Pivoting is intelligence. I think pivoting is creativity, is an awareness of yourself and of your surroundings. A lot of times things don't seem to be working out a certain way because there are better things for us out there, things more aligned. When we're fluid like water and we're able to pivot, it opens up so many doors. Going from that into longevity, I think that those two go hand in hand. Being able to pivot, in my opinion, is what helps to breed longevity in a career, especially when you're operating independently or you're operating primarily independently. It's so important to pivot. And as we move deeper into the digital age, we see more artists being able to show their work in new ways. And I want to really express the fact that there are no rules to these things. And I understand that, especially in the contemporary art world, a lot of things may seem to be frowned upon, or there might be unspoken rules. And I understand that, and I know those rules. But at the same time, there are no rules, because on one breath, and as I say this, trust me, I love the contemporary art world. I love speaking to artists. I love speaking to galleries. Anybody who loves art, and also anybody who loves business and the business of art, I love talking to and picking their brains. But at the same time, I can understand when things get to be a bit contradicting, because on one hand, a lot of times you'll hear you shouldn't merchandise your work, or you shouldn't do this with your work or your creativity. But then, or even a YouTube channel, me speaking to you right now, it's like, don't do that. Only focus on the studio and painting. But then on the other, on the flip side, a lot of times the people who are saying that, they're merchandising their artists. You go into a gallery or a museum, there's a gift shop, there's keychains, there's little small figurines and sculptures, there are books, they have YouTube channels. They promote artists on their YouTube channels. So it's one of those things that it is no different from when they do it to when you do it. It is just you independently promoting yourself, showing up for yourself. And that's the most important thing, to show up for yourself. Even for me, I had to pivot, and I had to open up more doors for myself. For one, I knew I needed more income for longevity. I knew I was super inspired by how other artists were crossing boundaries between fine art and commercializing their art and fashion. These things have inspired me since I was a young dude. Since I was a teenager. I was wearing the Obey, I was wearing the Crooks and Castles, I was wearing the Bobby Hundreds. I wasn't wearing the Supreme or the Murakami, but if I could have afforded it, I would have been wearing it, So these things have always inspired me. So not pushing myself to enter those spaces would have been a disservice to myself and my creativity. So I pivoted. Started Majowski, where I was able to start really cultivating this ecosystem for not only my career as an artist, but my brand that's allowed me to create the clothing, create the figurines, create the merchandise in a separate but cohesive way to my art. And I think that not only for just an independent artist, but if you want to continue to do this for the long run as a gallery, you have to know when to pivot, and you have to be open to pivoting. And again, in this video, I know I'm talking about autonomy and agency separate from other entities, but that's not me saying turn your back on the possibility and opportunity to work with these entities. I personally love going to galleries. I think the opportunity to be here in New York and pick up any day, go see the most current, best work out there, any time of the day, any time of the week, is a huge blessing. I think that going to see shows allows for you to kind of help put yourself mentally in the narrative of and connect yourself to other artists and like-minded people who are doing similar types of work. And I think that working with the right gallery is a wonderful thing where it could be a blossom into a beautiful, not only business relationship, partnership, but a lifelong friendship, community, again, with the right type of gallery. And I know a lot of people get hung up on the 50-50 split. There is a reason for the 50-50 split, a very valid reason, especially when you're working with a very good, reputable gallery. But I'll get into that in another video. But I just want to state, so me making this video is not me stating war against working with anybody, be your own. Granted, be your own boss, but this isn't to say not to be open to working with a gallery or a museum or any type of other artist collective. You know, this is me just stating from what I've learned in my career and in my life. It is important that you be able to stand on your own 2 feet as an artist. You know how to brand yourself. You know how to keep a good, healthy community, keep a good, healthy email list, and to know your strengths. Not everybody is an outgoing, talkative, networking genius, you know? Some people are more introverted. We're talking about artists here. A lot of artists are more introverted, and I understand that some people can switch it on and off. But if you feel like you're a person who's more introverted, learn how to work with your skills to help cushion the weaknesses you feel like you have. If you feel like you can't go out to every gallery opening and talk to people, maybe you can learn how to be a better researcher, where you can do more authentic cold emails or cold outreach. You know, instead of going out to those events, bring people into your studio space, bring people into your ecosystem where you can feel a sense of, you know, safety and confidence, inviting people to the studio for a studio visit, different things like that, you know. So I think there's multiple ways of going about this. And again, this creative field, it's wide open. And that can look scary, but that's also very exciting because, again, there are no rules to this. Again, thank you for taking the time to sit through this video and listen to what I had to say. I appreciate all of the support, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.